Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of the Damn YouTube Sports Talk Show. This your boy Ralph Sneaks coming to you live with another episode, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. If y'all ain't done so, man, head over to YouTube, subscribe to the content, hit that notification bell so you get notified when I drop new content. Um, Head over to IG, follow the sports page over there, damn_YouTube_sports talk. You can follow my personal page. You can follow me over there on IG as well. Ralph_Sneaks. Um, if you're on Twitter or X, it's Damn YouTube Sports Talk over there. You can follow content on social media pages, man. Just head on over there, follow. I follow back. Subscribe to the content. Like I said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get notified when new content drops. But we got another show coming to you. NFL about to kick off tomorrow night, actually. I think the Chiefs and the Ravens open the season up, if I'm not mistaken. And then Friday, you got Green Bay and Philly. They're going to open the season up over Brazil, wearing all that damn green. Both teams were green. So I'm not sure how that's going to work over there. But, we got NFL action. It's finally here. Another, one more day tomorrow. It'll finally be here. But we're gonna touch on some of these head coaches. It's some head coaches already coming into the season on the hot seat. And we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get right to it. Coach number one, who I got on no particular order. These are just coaches that I got on the hot seat coming into this season. There's no particular order. I think they all on the hot seat. To me, the hot seat is the hot seat. You own it. So we're gonna start off with Mike McCarthy in Dallas. 42-25 overall record since being there. It went 12-5, lost to Green Bay, ugly lost to Green Bay in the playoffs last season, 48-32. Mike McCarthy hired in 2020. He's averaged 11-6 since being hired in 2020. But he got 3 straight seasons of 12-5, 3 straight playoff, 3 straight seasons of making the playoffs. He's won the Division 2 of the past 3 years. He's lost in the wild card to Green Bay last season. Like I said, it was 48-32. The season before that, the divisional round, he lost to San Francisco 19-12 out in San Francisco, and then previous season before that, he lost to San Francisco again. In his first season in Dallas, he didn't make the playoffs. But the 3 teams that he's lost to back-to-back years with San Francisco, and then, of course, last year he got his ass beat by the Green Bay Packers. He's definitely on the hot seat in Dallas. I think a lot of changes are going to happen in Dallas, starting with the head coach, Mike McCarthy. I think they've seen enough of Mike McCarthy. I think they've had more than enough talent to win playoff games, especially last year's outing against the Green Bay Packers, in which Green Bay came to you. You didn't go to Green Bay. Green Bay came to you and put 48 up at AT&T in Dallas. So I think they're going to head in a new direction. I think they're just going to decide which direction they want to head in. So he has to go through this season as the head coach. They ain't fired him yet, but I think he is on the hot seat going into this season. Like I said, a lot of changes are coming in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb just got his money. I don't think they're going to pay Dak. I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to pay Dak. If they were going to pay Dak, we already established that the quarterback position is the most important position on the field. And if you're not paying that position, or if you haven't paid that position by now, and the market for QBs is only going up. So if you haven't paid Dak by now, I don't think you have plans on paying Dak. So Dak Prescott is going to be in line for probably anywhere between $57 and $60 million a year. If you ain't done it by now, you ain't had plans to do it, I don't think you're going to do it. Now, this is my prediction for the Dallas Cowboys. I think at some point, which, like I just stated, Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. I think they're going to go in a different direction. I think they're going to get younger, because Jerry doesn't like he doesn't like guys that know how to do their job. He wants to kind of be involved with everything. So he's going to hire another yes man. He's going to hire another young guy that's young, fresh in the game, that's just glad to be in the game because, he can quote unquote be a yes man to Jerry. He's not going to go and hire nobody that know what they're doing, that don't need Jerry in the way. That's not how Jerry operates. So those type of coaches that if they become available, they won't be a Dallas Cowboy. I'm looking for the Dallas Cowboys to go and get younger at the coaching position. Get off of Mike McCarthy. He's on the hot seat. Like I said, I think the Dallas Cowboys have had more than enough talent to do better than what they've done in the postseason. Now I get it that you ran into San Francisco twice and then you ran into Green Bay twice, in which San Francisco has been to the Super Bowl more recently. They were in the Super Bowl last season, and then they could have very well been in the Super Bowl the season before that. Making it to the NFC Championship game before falling short to the Eagles, which they had got hit with the injury bug at a key spot. So I get it. You lost to San Francisco, to Super Bowl contending team. I get that, but I think the Dallas Cowboys, what they need to do is, like I said, Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. You don't have plans on paying Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott hasn't got you no further making what he's making now. What makes you think paying him anywhere between $57 and $60 million he's going to get you further with Mike McCarthy? So Mike McCarthy, hot seat, out of there. I don't think they have plans on paying Dak because, like I said, Jerry Jones is more of a businessman than an NFL man. He's in the business of marketing and making money from the Dallas Cowboys and keeping the Dallas Cowboys brand alive and keeping fans buying tickets and merch and asses in seats and keeping, nationally televised games. That's Jerry's world. That's what Jerry does. But as far as football and making sense out of what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys, like I said, if he ain't paid Dak by now, I don't think he's planning on paying Dak. Because what Dak is doing now, I don't think you're gonna all of a sudden get he's going to get you further paying, like I said, anywhere between $57 and $60 million a year. So that's what the quarterback is. They had $55 million a year now. So Dak is going to get anywhere between $57 and $60 million. So if Dak ain't getting it done with what he's getting paid now on the current deal, I don't think you're going to pay Dak $60 million and he's going to get it done with that. So my prediction is they get off of Mike McCarthy because he's on the hot seat. They don't pay Dak. Look for a team like, if Dak hits free agency, look for a team like the Tennessee Titans maybe to sign Dak, right? Because I think that Tennessee, if the Will Levis don't show nothing this year with the team that they put together, and a lot of people predicting they finish last in the division. I don't think they're gonna finish last in the division. I think they got enough talent to not finish last in the division. I think they're gonna see this year whether Will Levis is the guy for the future of that franchise or not. If not, look for them to be in on the Dak Prescott deal if he hits free agency. But that's my prediction. They don't pay Dak. They go in a different direction with the quarterback. They get younger there. They also get young at the head coaching position. So now you got a young quarterback that you draft on a rookie deal, and you got a young head coach that they can kind of grow and work together with this thing. And I think they're going to keep the defense intact. And they need to go and add another wide receiver, a couple more weapons on the offensive side of the ball to help out that rookie quarterback and continue to bulk up that offensive line to help out their quarterback on the offensive side of the ball. You need a running back. I understand you just signed Dalvin Cook, but I don't think you're even going to get the Dalvin Cook we saw it with the Jets. It's a reason Dalvin Cook has been out there for so long and just got signed by the Cowboys. So I don't think that that's going to be like a big splash or whatever. So that's my prediction. Mike McCarthy on the hot seat. I think the Dallas Cowboys will make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll go out again like they did last season. Maybe not giving up 48 points. But you can look around the NFC, the other teams who've gotten better. You look at Detroit is still, Detroit. They're going to win the division again this year. Green Bay ain't nothing to sneeze at. They'll be a playoff team. Then you look at San Francisco. You look at the LA Rams. You look at what Atlanta did. You look in your own division at the Philadelphia Eagles, what they did. So I don't see a scenario in which Mike McCarthy keeps his job unless Mike McCarthy makes it to the NFC Championship game, and it's a competitive game in which he could have won that game and possibly been in the Super Bowl. But I don't see that happening. I think the Cowboys make the playoffs and they get tossed out in the first round again, and that'll be the end of Mike McCarthy as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. They go in a younger direction. They also get off of Dak, in my opinion, get a younger quarterback on a rookie deal, and then they just go and spend the money that they would have spent on Dak. They get a rookie quarterback for the next 4-5 years on that rookie deal, and they spend that money elsewhere to beef up other places, other holes on that team that they need. Like I said, another wide receiver. You throw in, keep beefing up that offensive line, and you get a running back. And then you could throw a couple pieces on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's the direction that the Dallas Cowboys go in. Mike McCarthy on the hot seat. He's out of Dallas. Moving on, Dennis Allen, the New Orleans Saints. I think the New Orleans Saints, Dennis Allen's on the hot seat in New Orleans. I think he got hired on in New Orleans like 2022, something like that. 16-18 record. He was promoted to being the head coach after previously serving as defensive coordinator in New Orleans. Last season, he finished, 2022, he finished third in the division, 7-10. Last year, he was top. He was second in the division, didn't make the playoffs, but he was tied with the Tampa Bay 9-8, I believe it was. They didn't make the playoffs at 9-8. So Dennis Allen is on the hot seat. Now, this is interesting because Dennis Allen came into a situation that wasn't good. I understand that the New Orleans Saints, they normally be pretty solid on the defensive side of the ball, or they have been pretty solid on the defensive side of the ball the past few years. I get all that. But Dennis Allen is a defensive-minded guy. I don't think Derek Carr is going to be there much more longer. I don't know the situation that's going to come with the Alvin Kamara, whether they're going to pay him or not. If you look at the New Orleans Saints, they weren't that active in free agency. They got a first-round offensive lineman out of the draft out of Oregon State. And they also got Kool-Aid McKinstry out of the draft. They brought in Chase Young and Willie Gay, the linebacker. But they lost Davenport to Detroit. They brought in Justin Simmons for a visit. Obviously, he didn't leave with a deal because he ended up signing with Atlanta. And the thing about that is Terry Fontenot, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's now the general manager in Atlanta. He was previously over there in the front office with the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints is interesting because Dennis Allen came in a situation in which the New Orleans Saints were dealing with, dead cap contracts, things of that nature, and they just basically pushed that issue down the road. And they've now got down the road and caught up with the issue that they kept pushing down the road. So now Dennis Allen is in a situation. That's why they couldn't be active in free agency, because they so tied up with dead cap money, they couldn't even be active in free agency like they wanted. And, like I said, they drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Bama, and they brought in Willie Gay, the linebacker, who was over there at Kansas City, and Chase Young. Those are defensive pieces. Dennis Allen's a defensive guy, so they brought in defensive pieces. The first round draft pick offensive lineman out of Oregon State, they selected him in the first round. But a bulk of their moves were on the defensive side of the ball. Dennis Allen being a defensive minded head coach. I think they need to get more offensive minded. I think they need to go through a rebuild because what the situation that they ran into, they didn't tackle that situation at the time. They basically just pushed it down the road. And now that the New Orleans Saints have gotten down the road, that situation is caught up with them. They're not going to be able to be competitive, being strapped up against the cap the way they are, dealing with dead cap, not having enough cap space to do what they need to do for Dennis Allen. I think this is just a situation in which Dennis Allen came into, in which it started before he took over, and now he's ran into it since he's taken over. So that's one, and I think they need to get more offensive minded down there, moving off of Derek Carr. Now, they got a young quarterback that they did draft in Spencer Rattler. They drafted him in a later round. So maybe they're going to see what Spencer Rattler is. But But if you put me in Spencer Rattler soon, then your season's over unless you have a devastating injury to Derek Carr. But if you're going to Spencer Rattler that soon in the season, there's nothing wrong with Derek Carr other than the fact that he's performing bad, then that's a sign that you need to blow this thing up, start over, do whatever you need to do to fix the cap situation. Now, like I said, back to Terry Fontenot. I hope I pronounced his name wrong. He's now the general manager in Atlanta. Atlanta had similar issues when they were getting off of Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, that dead cap situation. They had a lot of it. You know, when he came each year, I think he's been there, 3 years now? 2 to 3 years now. I think 3 years he's been in Atlanta as the general manager. But each year they got better with the dead cap and the salary cap got better to the point where they made significant moves this year because they were able to. When Terry Fontenot got there, he got to work on the issue that the New Orleans Saints are now facing. He got to work on that in Atlanta when he arrived in Atlanta. And so Atlanta is now able to put together the roster and do things that they've been able to do in free agency. Also accumulating some draft picks to do some things in the draft that they've done. So the team that Atlanta was versus the team that they are now, they went ahead and tackled that issue when Terry Fontenot got there versus pushing it down the road, continue to push it down the road, what the New Orleans Saints is doing. And I think that's what's going on in New Orleans. They need to get more offensive minded. They need to get off of Derek Carr. I don't know how much more longer he's going to be there. Not sure what the situation is going to be with the contract pertaining to Alvin Kamara. You got Chris Olave there, and then you got the other guy, Rashid there. And so I think that's Dennis Allen. He's on the hot seat. He just came into a situation in which I don't think he's going to be able to fix. Like I said, the league is more offense now. You know, it's more offensive minded now. So I think that's what the New Orleans Saints need to get. They need to get more of an offensive minded head coach in there to help that team in the NFC South. You know, and you know, I'm predicting even though the Saints still got a solid defense, or would have a solid defense this season, I'm still not sold on what they can do offensively with Derek Carr. I'm not sold on that at all. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked and surprised if the New Orleans Saints finished last in this division. You know, I understand that you still got Lattimore still there. You still got the Honey Badger there on the back end. And you still got some good solid defensive pieces. But I'm just not sold on a defensive-minded head coach with Derek Carr. You know, and like I said, Dennis Allen, he just came and took over or got promoted to a position in which it was a mess. You know what I mean? With the salary cap and the dead cap. So, like I said, they just kept continuing to push that issue down the road. And now they've gotten down the road and met up with that issue again. They now have to deal with that issue. And right now, if you Dennis Allen, this is bad timing to be dealing with this issue. I think they should have already somehow, some way dealt with this issue before it got, this bad. That's why, like I said, the New Orleans Saints wasn't able to be that active in free agency. Like I said, they brought in Chase Young, Willie Gay. They brought in Justin Simmons for a visit, but obviously he didn't sign. He's in Atlanta. So, got a solid pick in Kool-Aid McKinstry opposite of Lattimore on the defensive side of the ball. But I think, this puts Dennis Allen on the hot seat. If you Dennis Allen Saints, he should be on the hot seat. You should be looking for more of an offensive-minded guy. And like I said, he just came into a situation in which it was already a problem and issue that just got pushed down the road. And unfortunately, he's down the road dealing with the situation. That's going to cost him and pretty much got him on the hot seat. You're looking in the NFC East, back to the NFC East, Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's also on the hot seat. I think you're looking at what Nick Sirianni has to work with now. They won the Super Bowl not last season, but the season prior against the Kansas City Chiefs. He was hired in 2021, 34-17 record since taking over, 3 straight playoff appearances, won the division, like I said, in 2022, but lost in the Super Bowl to Kansas City. Last season, lost in the wild card round to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and lost, in 2021, they lost to Tampa Bay again. So he's lost twice to the Tampa Bay Bucks, looking at what the Philadelphia Eagles has added to the team. Saquon Barkley came over in free agency. Even though Kelsey retired, they got all that figured out. Howie Roseman, damn good job as GM over there. And that's why Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat, because you have a GM that's going out there making these smart moves, these smart contract signings, and assembling this roster together. If you Nick Sirianni, you got to get back to the Super Bowl. They brought in Saquon Barkley. They traded with in division trade with the Washington Commanders with Jahan Dotson. So now they're gonna have 3 wide receiver sets out there, and with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and now Jahan Dotson coming over from the Commanders. And they also did a damn good job in the draft. They took 2 corners, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Those 2 corners were graded very high. They was probably 2 of the top 4 corners in the draft. And Philly got both of them. They drafted Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. They also got Jeremiah Trotter. They also got the big receiver from Florida State. I think it's Johnny Wilson. He's like 6'6" or something like that. They also acquired him. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So if the issue, if you had to pick, and I think they also got from Tampa Bay, Devin White. They also got him. So they got some nice additions if you Philly. This team is going all in. Howie Roseman is going all in. And I got a strange feeling that he ain't done. It's going to be another move that they're going to pull off and make at the deadline. Howie Roseman, he did a good job of getting off Hassan Reddick before it was time to pay him. As you can see, Hassan Reddick is holding out with the Jets. So now it's no longer Philly's issue. It's now the New York Jets issue to deal with Hassan Reddick. So they pretty much put the team together to go all in to be Super Bowl contenders. So if you Nick Sirianni, you got everything you need. Jalen Hurts, more than capable of doing it. So you got the team to get back to the Super Bowl, and you have to get back to the Super Bowl. A lot of people have the Eagles projected to get to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of people that's projecting the Eagles and the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl again. That will be twice in the past 3 years that these 2 teams have met in the Super Bowl. If this happens, so if you Nick Sirianni, you got to get it done. You got the team to get it done with. You got the GM that has put the pieces assembled this roster to put the pieces together on the field to get it done. So if you Nick Sirianni, you got to do it. It's a lot of pressure to get it done, and you have the pieces to get it done going into the season. And like I said, I don't think Howie Roseman is done in Philly making moves. I think another move is going to be made at the deadline, whether it's getting off a player to get a pick or getting off a player and a pick to get another player to come in and help this team contend for a Super Bowl title. So if you Nick Sirianni, I got you on the hot seat this season, considering all the moves that was made in your favor to win now. These ain't moves that's set up to win 2 years from now, 3 years from now. These are moves set up for you to get back to the Super Bowl this season. Now, I think the only thing that's going to save Nick Sirianni is if half the damn team get injured and they miss significant time, like injuries that are going to keep players out 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, and it's got to be half the team. I think they have that. Only issue is going to be they're going to have to rely on 2 young corners because James Bradbury is out. Darius Slay, we don't know how long he's going to be there because they essentially drafted 2 corners. So these 2 corners are going to have to play significant under pressure because it's hard as a rookie to come in and play in the secondary of a team that's contending for a Super Bowl title in a passing league and expect to contribute right away. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's going to be pressure on these rookies because these rookies are going to have to play. If I had to pick a weakness on this team, it would be, probably secondary. Like I said, James Bradbury, we already saw what he was last season, and he's injured and he's going to miss, I think, 6 to 8 weeks of this season. And the season starts for them Friday against Green Bay. So that's where I think if I had to pick a weakness with this team, it's going to be starting the 2 young corners in a win-now situation because this is a win-now season considering how this team is assembled, the moves that they made for this team to get better and get back to the Super Bowl. So if I had to pick a weakness, that's what it would be. But it still should be good enough to win games and get them through the playoffs if you Nick Sirianni. That's why he's on the hot seat, in my opinion. I think I forgot somebody over there. Will Hennessy. They added him to the offensive line as well. So losing Jason Kelce was big, but I think they can overcome that. Moving on, Brian Daboll. And if you notice, going through these coaches, I think the only coach in the NFC East that's not on the hot seat is Dan Quinn, because he just got hired on with the Washington Commanders. So he's not on the hot seat this season. But those other three coaches, Mike McCarthy, Nick Sirianni, and now I'm getting into Brian Daboll, all three of those guys in that division is on the hot seat. Brian Daboll hired in 2022. He's a 15-18 record, third in the division the past two seasons. And he did make the playoffs in 2022 when he got hired, but he lost in the first round to the Eagles. Just got the hell beat out of them by the Eagles. They weren't expected to make the playoffs. They overachieved that season, and then they regressed last season. And I think they're going to be bad again this season, even though they drafted Malik Nabers in the first round and traded for Brian Burns. I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to do much. I think they're going to finish last in the division again this year. I just don't believe in Daniel Jones. I think they're going to be in the Carson Beck sweepstakes or either the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes to get a quarterback up in the first round. And they lucky that the Patriots didn't want to trade with him, because the rumor was that the Giants tried to trade with the Patriots. The Patriots didn't want to trade with the New York Giants. The Giants were going to select Drake May. So they're definitely going to be in the market for a quarterback, because they tried to get one in this year's draft by trading with the Patriots. The Patriots said no. So they definitely going to be in the market to get a quarterback. Daniel Jones, I'm not sold on Daniel Jones. I think what the New York Giants did by giving him $40 million a year, they tried to make it look like a bargain signing, hoping that after Daniel Jones got the money, that his play and performance would improve. So that $40 million a year that people were talking shit about the New York Giants giving Daniel Jones would look like a smart bargain signing at $40 million, considering that quarterbacks are now up to $55 million a year in the market. So they would have got him $15 million cheaper than what the market of a quarterback is now, and he would have been better still with a ceiling. But that don't seem to be the case. I think this right here marks the end of what we know as Danny Dimes. I'm not sure why they call him that, but this right here marks the end of Danny Dimes, which is going to put Brian Daboll on the hot seat. Like I said, they drafted Malik Nabers in the first round. They took Tyler Nubin, a safety, in the second round. Drew Phillips, a cornerback, in the third round. And like I said, they traded for Brian Burns. So defensively, they're gonna be pretty. They're gonna be pretty. They're not gonna be bad defensively, but I don't think they're gonna play enough defense to overshadow the offensive woes of Daniel Jones doing one or two things, misfiring on Malik Nabers, or the offensive line is going to be so bad, and it has been bad these past 3 years, that they're going to get Daniel Jones killed back there. Just it don't matter. I'm not sure what's going on with the New York Giants offensive line, but whoever they put on the offensive line, it just don't seem to work. So I'm not sure, are they just individually not good, or they're just not good as a unit, because you could have a solid offensive line or solid offensive lineman that he's a solid player. He's just probably playing on a bad unit, which then makes him look bad. But once he leaves that unit and goes somewhere else, he plays pretty solid. It's just that you didn't realize that he was that solid of a player, because the offensive line, the unit that he was on, was so bad, and he was a part of it. It made him look bad. So I'm not sure why the hell they can't seem to get, the offensive line together over there. But the offensive line over there been pretty bad since Brian Daboll has been there. They just overachieved that first year that he was there, made it to the playoffs somehow, some way. And even last season, there were games that they lost that they should have won because they did, they didn't execute down the stretch, or they couldn't hold the lead, or they just it was something in which they lost the lead And I think that's just a part of the game. I think that's what's going to hurt the New York Giants again this year. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be bad on the defensive side of the ball, but I don't think they're going to be great either to the point where they can constantly keep the offense, bad offense, in the game to win games. The defense can bend, but it can't break. And it's only so long that the New York Giants defense can bend before the offense break it. And I think that's what's going on here because they got bad offensive line play. I can't think his name. Offensive lineman, he came from Bama. Neal, I think his last name Neal, if I'm not mistaken. He's been a big, huge disappointment. He hasn't played in New York what they thought that he would bring, especially coming from Bama. They did pay one of their offensive linemen that has been pretty solid. It's just that everybody else as a unit ain't been good. What's my man? I think he came from Georgia. They paid him. But overall as a unit, I think that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt him. Brian Daboll is on the hot seat. If you're an offensive-minded guy, you got to start to kind of show signs that the offense is going to be coming to life. The offense ain't been coming to life. And I understand that you've been dealing with injuries, this, that, and the third, but an offensive-minded guy will find a way. And I think that's what it was. Just by him being an offensive-minded guy, he overachieved that first year he was there. But, an offensive-minded guy, you have to see improvement on the offense every year. And we haven't seen it. Matter of fact, the offense has regressed. Now they hoping that this Malik Naples guy that they took in the first round out of LSU, we all should know of what he did at LSU with Jaden Daniels and having Brian Thomas down there. So they're hoping that this guy offensively can open some things up for him. Hoping that this guy could be another one of those great receivers in which he, I've seen, preseason flashes of what he can do. It's just the quarterback play and the offensive line play is going to be so bad down there that, it's probably going to take another guy to come in. It's going to probably take another draft, another year or two before we actually see what this team should be incapable of doing. But I think Brian Daboll is on the hot seat. As a result, the team has regressed since the first year. And that, to me, that's one of the worst things you could have as a head coach. Like, you come in and your first year be more successful than expected. You overachieve, so to speak, your first year. And then your second year, you regress. And then your third year, you don't get better than you were your second year. You kind of stayed the same, or slightly regressed again. So to me, that's one of the worst things that could happen for a new head coach is you can come in and have success right away your first season. And then your second season, you regress. And then the season after that, you either stay the same that you did your second season or slightly regress again. That's one of the worst things that could happen. I think that's what's going on with Brian Daboll, especially if you're an offensive-minded guy. I would much rather come in the first season, you really don't do much, and then you get better the second season, and then you get better in your third season than you were obviously your second and your first season. That's showing signs of growth, showing signs of improvement. So that's what you want to see, the continued growth. But if you come in and you have an overachieving first season, now you have expectations. And if you don't meet those expectations in the second season, it's a head scratcher. And then you look the same in your third season or worse in your third season than you did in your second season. That's a sign of regression, not progression. And I think that's what's going on here. He hasn't shown signs of progression. They've regressed. And, a lot of it, is probably quarterback play from Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones, should I say. So I think that, they will be in the market to get a quarterback in the first round. They will be in the Carson Beck / Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes. So yeah, Brian Daboll, you on the hot seats. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to come off of him, and they're going to get another head coach that's going to, and like I said, I would much rather have a first year my first year head coach. I would rather have him use that as a foundational year. You're not expected to win a lot anyway. Looking at the roster and the team that you have, you're not expected to win anyway. So use that as a foundational year. Now, if you overachieve, that's just something that you do. But once you overachieve in your first year, they're going to expect you to do at least that or better in the second year. And if you do anything less than that in the second year, and then you come back in your third year and have the same type of year in your third year as your second year, or regress slightly again in your third year than your second year, now you on the hot seat, and that's what's going on here with Friday ball in New York Giants. Robert Saleh, New York Jets. He's on the hot seat. In my opinion, the former San Francisco defensive coordinator is on the hot seat. He's a defensive-minded guy. Now, the New York Jets do have a dominant defense. They're damn good on the defensive side of the ball. And I get it. They lost Aaron Rodgers last year, the fourth play into the season. So that was a whole lot of the Jet season pretty much was gone then, because then you had to rely on Zach Wilson. And we already knew what Zach Wilson was prior to seeing Aaron Rodgers become a New York Jet. So 18-33 record. 2021 he went 4-13. 2022 he went 7-10, and last year somehow he went 7-10 with Zach Wilson. So that's gonna be why you're on the hot seat, in my opinion, because Zach Wilson is no longer there. He's with the Denver Broncos. If you somehow found a way, which you did, to win 7 games in that division with Zach Wilson pretty much being your quarterback the whole year, because like I said, Aaron Rodgers got injured on the fourth down play of the season towards Achilles. Matter of fact, you found a way to win that game with Zach Wilson coming in. Nobody expected to see Zach Wilson play at all that season until Aaron Rodgers got hurt the fourth play into the game. They haven't made the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs. They didn't finish last. Only the damn Patriots was worse than them. And like I said, if you found a way to win 7 games with Zach Wilson without Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson's no longer there, so we can't put it on Zach Wilson this season because he ain't even there no damn more. So now you won 7 games with Zach Wilson. So now you get a full season of Aaron Rodgers. You have to win this division. You have to get in the playoffs, and you have to be a contender in the playoffs. Because if you do anything, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, he gets you 3-4 more wins. He should get you 3 to 4 more wins. So you should be looking at least 11 wins this season if you are the New York Jets, and you can stay relatively healthy. I understand it's hard to do that in the NFL because of how much of a contact sport it is. But if you can stay relatively healthy with Aaron Rodgers, and you had 7 wins last year with Zach Wilson, you should be good for 11 wins this year. And if you don't get that and make a push through the playoffs and be a contender in the playoffs with acquiring Aaron, and not just getting Aaron Rodgers back, but you also you brought Mike Williams in. So I'm not sure what the hell is going to happen with Hassan Reddick, what the issue is and what's going on over there. I'm not sure. But you're looking at Mike Williams, you're looking at Garrett Wilson, you're looking at Alan Lazard, you're looking at the pieces that you got on the offensive, a healthy Breece Hall. You should win at least 11 games here and make a push through the playoffs and be in contention. Like I said, you won 7 last year. You can't half-ass and win 9 this year. So that means you only 2 wins better with Aaron Rodgers than you were with Zach Wilson, because you won 7 with Zach Wilson. That's why you're going to be on the hot seat if you Robert Saleh. You got to get it done this year. Aaron Rodgers was out basically the whole season last year. You get Aaron Rodgers back. So you the talk has been, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. So if you Robert Saleh, you got to make some noise. I think, and then you're dealing with a guy with an ego like Aaron Rodgers. So, accountability is going to be pointed everywhere else. So unfortunately, Robert Saleh is going to be the one that get the finger pointed at. He's going to be the one that gets the accountability forced upon. So, Robert Saleh, you on the hot seat. You got to make some noise this year. You're going to have Aaron Rodgers. Now, it was a freak accident. Hopefully we don't have nothing like that again happen. And I think the only thing that saves Robert Saleh's job is if something like that does happen again this year. Now the likelihood and chances of that happening again in back-to-back years is very, very slim. But, it can happen, But so I think that's the only thing that's going to save Robert Saleh's job here is if you have another situation this season with Aaron Rodgers like you had last season, and I'm not even sure who the backup. I think Tyrod Taylor is the backup over there. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Tyrod Taylor over there. as the Jets backup. So you look at the pieces that you got defensively: Sauce Gardner, C.J. Mosley, D.J. Reed. Like I said, Hassan Reddick is still holding out. Not sure what's going to come up out of that situation. Chuck Clark, Quentin Williams up front, Javon Kinlaw, Jermaine Johnson. So you're solid on the defensive side of the ball. And like I said, you got Garrett Wilson and Williams, Mike Williams, that came over from the LA Chargers. Brees Hall, Alan Lazard, who you got some type of, you was familiar with from y'all Green Bay days together. Nathaniel Hackett, you know what I mean, over there. So you if you Robert Saleh, you got to make noise this year. You got your guy back for full season. You got to make some noise this year. If not, they're gonna get you out of there. And it's not just the New York Jets that are gonna get you out of there. It's gonna also be Aaron Rodgers, who's also gonna have a big part in getting you out of there. So if you Robert Saleh, yeah, you on the hot seat. And some of the notable additions, the offensive lineman who they drafted in the first round out of Penn State, Olu Fashanu. Hope I pronounced his name right. He was the 10th overall pick out of Penn State. And then you have Braylon Allen, who was a 4th round pick, running back out of Wisconsin. So I think you're going to have a nice 1-2 punch if they utilize this guy Braylon Allen along with Brees Hall. If you mix them in together and not rely so heavily on Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 32, 33 times a game at Aaron Rodgers' age, coming off of the injury that he suffered, which was an Achilles, So, I think they could have a nice mix with the play action, utilizing that 1-2 punch in the backfield with Brees Hall leading the way. So you got something to work with if you Robert Saleh. So you on the hot seat if you Robert Saleh. And like I said, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a part of that, getting you out of there if you don't get the job done. Because we all know the finger pointing and accountability is going to start going all over the place. And unfortunately, if you're there, the accountability and the finger point is going to be in your direction if you Robert Saleh. So, yeah, you're on the hot seat coming into the season. You got to get it done. You got to, be a contender this year, even in that division. If I had to pick an honorable mention, another honorable mention head coach that could possibly be on the hot seat, I would say Mike Tomlin. I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin, well, I don't know if you would consider this on the hot seat, but I don't think they're going to fire Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin may step down. The only way they fire Mike Tomlin is this season is a complete disaster. If you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the last losing season they had was in 2003, in which they went 6-10. They've had a winning season ever since 2003. Like I said, last losing season for the Steelers was in 2003, and it was 6-10. Since then, they've had a winning season. Mike Tomlin hired in 2007. He hasn't had a losing season since he's been in Pittsburgh as the head coach. The worst season under Mike Tomlin was 8-8, and they went 8-8 in 2012, 2013, and 2019. Those were 500 seasons. And that only happened 3 times during Mike Tomlin's tenure as the head coach in Pittsburgh. But everything else has been 8-8 better. But the thing about Pittsburgh is the Kenny Pickett situation didn't work. The Mason Rudolph situation didn't work. Right? So even the Mitchell Trubisky, that didn't work. So you look at Pittsburgh's offensive ranking over the past 4 years. In 2020, they was 25th off the, and this since Antonio Brown has been gone. The Juju Smith thing didn't work out because Juju Smith, was a good 2 as long as Antonio Brown was there. He was a good number 2 receiver to Antonio Brown. Chase Claypool didn't work. You got off of him. You don't have Deontay Johnson, but you have George Pickens there. So since Antonio Brown, left there and went to the Raiders, and then, everybody knows the situation and saga that's been going on with Antonio Brown since leaving Pittsburgh and leaving the Raiders. In 2020, they were ranked 25th offensively. 2021, they were ranked 23rd. 2022, 23rd. And 2023, 25th. So offensively, they haven't been good since Antonio Brown left. Now, I'm not saying they haven't had good offensive players, because you got George Pickens, who, in my opinion, could be a dynamic playmaker if you utilize him right. Now, I understand you got Arthur Smith over there, now as your offensive coordinator, but you don't, if you know the saying that if you got two quarterbacks, you ain't got one. So they just named Russell Wilson quarterback one over Justin Fields, which in my opinion is now Justin Fields is now looked at as a high quality backup. You know, somebody that can come in when the starter's down and keep the team afloat. That's what he's now viewed as. And I think that's whoever didn't win this quarterback job in Pittsburgh was going to be viewed as that. So now Justin Fields got beat out by Russell Wilson, and I think they went with Russell Wilson's experience over Justin Fields' inexperience. I think that's why they named him quarterback one. Because then, in my opinion, if you're Russell Wilson, you as a veteran quarterback, you shouldn't be in a QB battle with Justin Fields. You know, considering your resume and what you've done so far in your career, you shouldn't be in a quarterback battle with Justin Fields. So I think that you are on the brink of being a career backup for the rest of the way. But now I think that's what Justin Fields is going to be viewed as a high quality backup. He's going to be something similar to what, you know, he's going to probably be something similar. He's going to keep a job. Don't get me wrong. He's going to keep a job, you know, but if he does bounce around, he's going to bounce around like Jameis Winston. You know, how Winston was a starter and now Winston is a backup, you know. So that's what I think Justin Fields is going to be viewed as now, unless something happens. He comes into during the season and just has an outstanding year from the time he comes in to the end of the season, gets this team in the playoffs, which I have them finishing last in this division, if you the Steelers. And teams are now looking at it because him and Russell Wilson are both on one-year deals. They're not going to, and that's why Mike Tomlin's honorable mention is probably, I don't think they're going to outright just fire him, but I think he's on the hot seat, you know, if that makes sense, because I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have to get more offensive minded. It's almost like the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the new era of football, but still trying to operate in the old era. They haven't quite got all the way into the new era and operating in the new era of football. They're in the new era of football, but they're still operating as if they're in the old era of football. You know, I don't think they're offensive minded enough. Like I said, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. So they got two quarterbacks who are essentially on one-year deals. So they're going to have to find a quarterback. They're going to have to get more offensive minded. I don't think that Mike Tomlin is offensive minded enough as a head coach in today's NFL. So I think they're going to have to, you know, get more offensive minded from the head coaching position because it is a passing league. You're going to have to get a quarterback, which, you know, I think is going to be better served if you go out and get a younger quarterback rather than bringing in another veteran quarterback to grow with a younger offensive minded head coach that I think that they need. You know, you got a dynamic guy that you just got to get the ball to. He making all kind of acrobatic, athletic, circus catches in George Pickens. I think you need to add another solid number 2 wide receiver because you just got rid of Deontay Johnson. So I think you need to add another solid receiver opposite of him. Not sure what you're going to do with Najee Harris because you have Warren back there too. I don't think they picked up his 5th-year option. So I don't think Najee Harris is going to be part of their future plans in Pittsburgh. So, you know, they're still with TJ Watt on the defensive side of the ball. Now, what I think that they could do is I've heard rumors of possibly a TJ Watt trade. You know, I think you can get bukus of assets back, picks back for a guy like TJ Watt. And I think that's what they're going to need to do to get back to bulk up that offensive side of the ball. You know, you're going to have to get a quarterback. And like I said, I would get a quarterback out the draft. And I understand you tried to do that with Kenny Pickett. That didn't work. You know, Kenny Pickett fell in the draft, and that didn't work. It didn't work with Mason Rudolph. And I don't think it's going to work bringing in two guys like Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Like I say, even though Russell Wilson has been named quarterback one over there, Russell Wilson's been named the starting quarterback one over there over Justin Fields. I think they just need to move in a new direction, coaching wise. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin can't coach. Obviously, the man can coach because he hasn't had a losing season since he became the head coach in Pittsburgh. Worst season's been 8-8, and he's had 3 of those. But I think it's just a fact of we're in a new era of football, and I think Mike Tomlin is still he's in the new era, but he's still operating as if he's still in the old era. It's kind of like having one foot in and one foot out. You got to have both. You got to have both your feet all in. And that's not what it is. One foot is in the new era of Pittsburgh football, and the other foot is in the old era, dragging behind and slowing it down, and not fully all the way into it. Now, like I said, Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator over there. Hopefully he can. I don't know. I think they just need to get an offensive-minded head coach, because you've seen the Cincinnati Bengals get an offensive-minded head coach, and they have been to the Super Bowl more recently than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's not what the Baltimore Ravens have been more close to getting to a Super Bowl than the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cleveland Browns was the ass laughing stock of the division, along with the Cincinnati Bengals, but both of those teams have gotten better on both sides of the ball. Being picked to finish last in that division is not something the Pittsburgh Steelers are used to. They're not used to being looked down on by the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not used to being looked down on by the Cleveland Browns. And that's exactly what's going on, because both Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals are a better team than Pittsburgh. And they have offensive-minded guys, and Cincinnati, being the team that's out of that division, has been to a Super Bowl more recently than any team in that division. If you Pittsburgh, that's got to be not a good feeling. So I think they need to get offensive-minded like Cincinnati did. Go and get your quarterback that this young offensive-minded coach and this young quarterback can grow to. And I think that's how they're going to get back. And then just go and hire a pretty solid defensive coordinator so you can keep that defensive intensity from Pittsburgh ways. You can keep up defensively, because you're going to need to in that division, because Cleveland's a solid defense and Baltimore Ravens is a solid defense. And you still want to keep that Pittsburgh Steelers tough defensive mentality. So I think you just need to get more offensive-minded from the head coaching position, bring in a good, solid defensive coordinator that can keep that defensive intensity up in Pittsburgh, and just have your offensive-minded coordinator working strictly on, the offense, because that's what the league is now. It's more offensive. It's more of a passing league now. So you need a quarterback that can get your dynamic playmaker, George Pickens, the ball. You need your offensive guy that can drum up some plays, that can get you some dynamic plays going, some chunk plays going on down the field. And you have a guy that can create that in George Pickens. You have a tough physical receiver that's athletic, can make acrobatic catches, and can be dynamic for this offense if you have the right head coach that can unlock this offense for that to happen. And I don't think Mike Tomlin is the offensive-minded guy that can do that needs to be there to push this team offensively forward. They need to go and find that in a young offensive-minded head coach. They need to go and find that. And then, now if I don't think it's going to happen, but if you Mike Tomlin, you just want to be a defensive coordinator or something like that, I think that would be served well, but I don't see him stepping down from being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers to being the defensive coordinator. But I do understand that Pittsburgh needs to get more offensive-minded with their head coach, and I don't think Mike Tomlin is offensive-minded enough in today's NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers when you have a guy like George Pickens and you have two quarterbacks, which you don't have one if you have two. And the two you have on one-year deals. So you're going to need a quarterback. So I think that's what, if I had to pick another guy that was on the hot seat, I would say Mike Tomlin. Like I said, it's got to be feeling some type of way in Pittsburgh if you're looking up to the Cincinnati Bengals, who have an offensive-minded head coach and who have been to the Super Bowl more recently than you. And if you look at the offensive pieces that they have with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and then you look at, they just drafted a receiver out of Bama. I think it was the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken, Jermaine Burton. They took him. So, they're going to continue to be an offensive team. The defense is not great, but it's not bad. It's good enough to keep them in games with the offense that they have to win the game. If that makes sense. But if you Pittsburgh, you struggling on the offensive side of the ball to get the ball down the field. And I think you strictly won games because your defense kept you in games and you scored just enough points to win games. I don't think that you are offensive minded. It ain't like your offense was just blowing teams away. That wasn't the case. Your defensive intensity kept you in games to the point where it was enough of what the offense scored for you to win the game. And I think that's where you got to upgrade. You got to get an offensive-minded guy in because I don't think Mike Tomlin is offensive-minded enough in today's NFL for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be what they need to be, because I'm picking them last to finish in this division. And a lot of people picking them last to finish in this division. They're not used to looking up in the division. They used to being up at the top of the division, and looking down, especially when you have teams like Cincinnati and Cleveland who aren't, powerhouse teams, so to speak, in the division, let alone in the conference. And like I said, Cincinnati been to a Super Bowl more recent than the Pittsburgh Steelers have. And that's not something that Pittsburgh want to continue to look at. They got to get more explosive. They got to get more dynamic offensively. And I don't think they're going to do that with Mike Tomlin being their head coach. But yeah, that's my time, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe to the content, hit that notification bell. It's Damn YouTube Sports Talk. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified when new content drop. Head over to Instagram. Follow me over there, the sports page over there, Damn_YouTube_Sports Talk. If you want to follow my personal page, it's Ralph Sneaks. The link's in the bio if you want to follow there as well. Twitter. Head over there, Damn YouTube Sports Talk. Follow the content over there as well. But yeah, man, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until the next one, y'all be safe.